I do think the character model was actually like very distracting in not a good way, because like with the camera angles chosen, it just felt like this game seems like a game that came out in like 002 in terms of its, you know, like character design. It's like a bit old and not flattering, I don't think, for a modern audience. In comparison to something like Forspoken, which has, you know, I mean, yes, it has a much more realistic looking character designs. It's not these hyper proportioned. 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 It's not these hyper proportioned something or another's. But it also seemed, I don't know, a bit more grounded in a way that I found much more appealing.
Alright guys, it's a day ending in Y, which means that we're going to have some of the most unhinged, ridiculous takes on the internet. And unfortunately, we have to cover it because this is a topic that I have actually avoided due to my lack of interest in it as a whole. Mainly because I didn't really love the first Stellar Blade game. I'm going to be honest and out myself right now. I tried playing it a couple years ago. I thought it was alright. You know, it was whatever. I thought the story was kind of lacking. The character wasn't very relatable or whatever. Looked nice. Combat was fun. Eventually, I'll go back and finish the game. But I think Stellar Blade had a much bigger, like, broader impact as far as, like, the actual conversation around it as a whole than the actual quality of the game, you know, speaking for itself. I think Stellar Blade's impact in Eve as a character was far more profound when you saw the reaction from the media and the way that they were treating gamers and people who actually enjoyed that kind of content, calling them incels and gooners and all that kind of stuff. So while the game and the character were very important for the, you know, the pseudo culture war as it is, unfortunately for me, the game itself just doesn't resonate. Now, going into a little bit more detail on this, the recent trailer for the sequel, Blood Rain, came out a couple weeks ago, and once again, we had people losing their minds over fictional characters who also happen to be androids and the way that they themselves perceived these characters. If you remember, a couple months back when Pragmata came out, there were a lot of these sick weirdos online calling Diana sexualized, saying this child character was too sexy. Now, for me, that screams self-report. That's like, dude, if you look at a child character and think it's sexy, you've got a few screws loose. Go turn yourself into the authorities, have the FBI raid everything you've got, and just remove yourself from society. That being said, the point of the matter is, Diana was an android. I think with these portrayals of androids, what's throwing a lot of people off is they're not necessarily supposed to look 100% human. There's a little bit of that uncanny valley factor that plays in. So for me, when I perceive these characters, I look at Diana and say, well, that's obviously a child. Even if it looks a little strange, it's still a child. I look at the new character Evie from Stellar Blade Blood Rain, and it's clearly a woman, despite the fact that the face is obviously a little bit rounder, a little bit more childlike in some of the screenshots and some of the angles that we've seen from the trailer. It is undeniably supposed to be a female, an adult woman's body that android is representing. So again, you should be able to look at these two things and keep them separate, right? So I put out this tweet a couple weeks ago. I said, here we have two androids, Evie from Stellar Blade Blood Rain and Diana from Pragmata. One of these is an adult, the other is a child. If you can't tell which one is which, I'm afraid there's no helping you. And honestly, guys, I think that's what it comes down to for me. You can argue different facial features and the way that the body is not as curvy as Eve from Stellar Blade, and try to make that argument for yourself that clearly they tried to make her childlike. And I think that's just a retarded take to have. You can have that opinion, though. But what it did cause was a lot of bad reactions, a lot of bad takes on the internet, and the CEO of Shift Up, the developers of Stellar Blade, had to come out and kind of explain the difference between these two characters, Eve from the first game, and of course Evie from Stellar Blade Blood Rain. Obviously, he said that yes, she's younger, she's smaller in size, she's shorter than Eve, but she has a stronger personality and engages in much tougher battles. And for me, that sounds like something I actually want to play. And she's actually part of a special squad, he says, that chases after a group of terrorists who cause terror attacks here and there in the city. If you actually play the game, you will not think that, he continued. I definitely like how Eve looked in the previous Stellar Blade, but this time Evie, just not her physical looks, but her personality, the way she talks, the way she engages in battles, all that will combine together, and you'll see that she's a very lovable character. And of course, Kotaku goes on to say, I've reread these comments several times, and it just comes across as evasive nonsense to me. Kim's response doesn't really address Evie's appearance, nor her overtly sexualized poses in the trailer. Guys, it's 2026, what are we doing? Beyond stating that she is, quote, younger and smaller in size. Kim did, however, talk about the new outfits that will be available for Evie in Stellar Blade Blood Rain, saying it'll be even more appealing. That's all we can say. Good lord, I hope more appealing doesn't mean what I think it means in this context. The jiggle physics present in the reveal trailer were disturbing enough. Thank you very much. Okay, so you're gay. I don't know what to tell you. But moving on from this, we even had people like Asmongold saying that she looked like a child, that she looked too young. Again, everyone's entitled to their own interpretation of that. I even pointed out that for some weird reason, there didn't seem to be this controversy, although there kind of was back behind the scenes, regarding Eve in Stellar Blade versus Evie. But there were people, if you go way back, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, the street reporter was showing them screenshots of Eve, and these women, these like blue-haired freaks, were saying, oh, she looks like a child, you know, the whole typical where are her organs argument that we've heard time and time again. A lot of people memeing on this, pointing out that, again, if you think this looks like a child, you've got some issues. But now it's even gone so far as to people starting change.org petitions to try to force Shift Up to change this character. Now, guys, I understand that everybody could feel like there's an important cause to make a petition for, and you think that there's some justification for it, and maybe you'll get a few signatures and you'll pat yourself on the back and think you accomplished something. But this is really grasping at straws at this point. This article from IXBT Games says fans demand changes to Stellar Blade Bloodrain Heroine and removal of revealing costumes. A new petition has emerged. Of course, the quote from the petition says, while we support creative freedom and the original Stellar Blade's approach to depicting attractive adult characters in revealing clothing, applying similar revealing outfits and body physics to a, quote, young character causes serious discomfort for many players. Now, again, I mentioned it before, this is the one screenshot, the one angle that they've taken from the trailer. It's like the opening look of the character. It is the only time that I've ever even considered the possibility that this could have been a child. The rest of the trailer, it's unmistakably a female adult character. So again, these guys are really grasping at something here that doesn't exist. But going on to talk about the petition has a whopping 48 verified signatures right now. The best part about this is when I saw this earlier today, it was actually up to 49 and they lost one. So apparently not verified, or somebody was able to remove their signature. Down in the comments, there's exactly 3 comments. One of them being someone saying, I accidentally rushed in thinking it was the opposite of this petition. I completely regret it. Another person saying, Lily from the previous game looks younger and is more sexualized. Supporting this is supporting censoring the original Stellar Blade. Do not take the opinions of gooners who didn't play the original game seriously. Now, by contrast, the petition from change.org that was made for the first game regarding the perceived, when they put the game on PC from PlayStation, there were some character outfits for Eve that seemed to be censored. This one got almost 96,000 signatures. Now, you tell me which of these seems like it actually has natural organic interest from the fan base. Even worse, though, is apparently from Kotaku in Action on Reddit, there were people trying to report the game to payment processors. And of course, this was on Reset Era and it got deleted, so I don't even know how verifiable this is. But there are people who are actually going to this extreme, to these lengths, to try and force Shift Up to change the character for their own perceived sensibilities or whatnot. Epic Mike saying, if you're one of the dumbasses approving of or actually reporting Stellar Blade Bloodrain to payment processors, get off the internet, throw your computer in the trash, then go check into a rehab clinic. Only someone smoking crack could be that stupid. Well, we know who that person is. It's Yorch Torch Games, somebody who, if you don't know this person, you're better off. He went and said, everyone knows I'm against reporting games to payment processors. But in the case of Stellar Blade Bloodrain, Shift Up is the sole responsible for this whole EV debacle. Now, the debacle he's talking about doesn't exist. It's a controversy that he is trying to create because Yorch only lives for engagement and nothing else. He offers no original ideas. He has no actual moral fiber or ethics of his own. He blows any way the wind blows. He just goes along with it. He says it's the CEO and was all cocky, reposting owns, victory laps always come with a bill, always. He would then go further on, Packer Girl sharing these screenshots to say, I won't be a pawn in a war that Shift Up started. They wanted their Eevee. They were smug about their Eevee. Now it's their responsibility to deal with the fallout and fix the mess they created. Little context. Yorch was big mad that apparently Eevee was replacing Eve and had a pixie cut. That's the long and the short of it. Funny how all the faux anti-woke started crying less than a minute after I posted that. My message is clear. Shift Up made this mess and I won't take any part in supporting their Eevee disaster. And yes, things will get worse for Stellar Blade Bloodrain. Another guy here, Mega Man, said, but let me say this can set a scary precedent if these asshat at Reset Era go through with this. And Yorch replies, ask Shift Up to fix it then. They're the ones who created the mess. I'm not taking part in it. He then quote tweeted Jay Viper and said, Shift Up is giving payment processors every excuse they need to go on a cancel rampage. Shift Up had the easiest W ever, but decided to go with Eevee. They're the ones to blame. I'm not your enemy, but all of you faux anti-woke are too emotionally incontinent to see that. I don't think that he's using words he understands. Jay Viper says, I never labeled you my enemy. You did that, my guy. I just disagreed with you. And Yorch says, oh yeah, Shift Up had it coming, and you should blame them for making a terrible business decision, not me. But it gets even better, because even Paul Tassi, somebody who I don't have much respect for, Paul, come back to the light, buddy. Become a chud. I know you've got it in you. Came out here and quote tweeted Jay Viper saying, wait, this is about the AI makeover video game girl guy getting canceled by his own side over Stellar Blade Blood Rain. LOL, always fun when this happens. Paul, if you ever see this video, this is not somebody on our side. Yorch is a retard who doesn't have any actual opinions of his own. Jay Viper sharing a screenshot of this guy who apparently is pushing the petition, trying to actually force Shift Up to change the character, saying, I created the Stellar Blade website to highlight the censorship of the first game imposed by the CEO. Everyone let them get away with it or deny it. Everyone also let them get away with screwing over the day one PS5 fans and adding de novo to a single-player game. This time they crossed the line, and I will do everything I can to stop the normalization of sexualizing youthful characters in video games. Now, talking about censorship here, this is the craziest thing and how people are blaming the CEO of Shift Up, because the reality is, when this game came to PC, after it had its 1 year of exclusivity on PS5, it sold 3 million units in a day, which then led to be about, I think, 3 million copies on PC that sold since then. The game sold like, over 6 million copies so far, to the point that last year, Stellar Blade announced that they were going to be getting rid of the PS5 exclusivity deal that they had and self-publishing the game day one on multiple platforms, including PC, and yet they are still attacking this guy for censorship or, essentially creating a controversy by trying to push something that doesn't exist. I don't even know what is wrong with these people at this point. Like I said, me covering this is the funniest thing because I am not the biggest Stellar Blade fan on the planet. People try to come at me on Twitter all the time and share screenshots of Stellar Blade like I'm some gooner or whatever. First off, the game is fine. I have no problem with the game. It's just not that great of a game in my opinion. But I think, again, the significance of the game was far more important than the game itself, and the sequel getting this kind of pushback from people who were quote-unquote on our side is the most insane thing that I have ever seen. But I'm going to stop rambling, guys. I'm going to wrap it up right there. It's a lot to cover, a lot to kind of condense into one video. Share your thoughts on all this down below, and I will catch you guys on the next one. And while you're here, make sure to hit like and subscribe to both my YouTube channels. Check out minimaleffort.shop for loose leaf tea, news, and merchandise. And if you're in the market for a new top-of-the-line PC, check out Meta PCs. Use my link down below, code TBO for a discount. And of course, Instant Gaming as well for all the top-selling games on the market at a massive discount. Thanks for watching and catch you guys on the next one.